Well, I'm Deanna Stewart. I'm the Deputy Director of Community Engagement here at DCYF, for those of you who do not know me. Thank you for joining us this evening. I was thinking about this as I was going to say good morning, but different meeting, different time of day. So today we're going to have a couple presenters and talk about some topics that we've been communicating back and forth with you all via email, and having you all take surveys about different topics. So you may recognize some of this on our previous survey. Can we go to the next slide, please? Awesome. So I'm sure most of you all are aware of virtual meeting protocols at this point. Please remain muted unless you have something to say. It's a pretty small group at this point, so feel free to unmute and ask questions throughout. Don't feel like you need to just stay in the chat. But if you're more comfortable adding questions in the chat, feel free to do so. If you do get cut off or cannot hear or cannot communicate with us throughout the Zoom, feel free to email us, and we will definitely work through any technical difficulties with you to get you back online. So before we kick it off, I know we'd shared the feedback loop with you all, the additional comments and questions that we had. Oh, thank you, Jessica. That's the agenda, is in the chat right now. We also had the feedback loop. So we sent that to you ahead of time, and it kind of answers the questions that had come up about the CCDF conversation during the last meeting. So you'll notice that in the chat as well. And then tonight's agenda. All right, so we will do introductions and then we'll start with the meeting topics. So I'll just call on folks, unless you want to just randomly unmute and do it yourselves, that's fine too. It's a small enough group, we can do that. But if you do, whichever you choose, your name, share your name, your location, whether you're a center provider, family home provider, FFN, public attendee, or staff. And then we also do have a question that we will ask after these brief introductions. So I'll see if anyone wants to unmute and volunteer first.
Hi, I'll go.
Great, thanks, Kathy.
I'm Kathy Carmen. I am located in northern Snohomish County, Arlington, Marysville area. I am a center provider. We have one center and we're expanding to a second location, hopefully in June.
Congratulations, thank you.
I can share. Good evening, everyone. I'm Heather DeGrood, and I'm the Operations Manager with Early Care and Education at the ESD 112 in Vancouver, Washington. And we have a number of early learning programs throughout Southwest Washington, and they are all center-based slots with the exception of a few early Head Start home-based.
Thanks, Heather. Welcome.
I can go. My name is Michelle Sampilo. I'm located in Spokane, Washington, and I am the WA Compass product owner, so one of the DCYF staff.
Thanks, Michelle.
Hi, my name is Elisa. Sorry, I'm traveling in the car right now, so apologies for the background noise. I'm part of DCYF, and I'm the Child Care Licensing, Quality Assurance, and Continuous Quality Improvement Manager. And I live in Ravensdale, Washington.
Thanks, Elisa.
I'll go next. This is Tammy Kane. I'm a DCYF staff. I'm part of the Fiscal Integrity Unit. And I'm located in Long Beach, Washington.
Thanks, Tammy. Thanks,
Hello.
Dave. I see your introductions in the chat. Sorry, I had to make it off. Go for it.
No problem. My name is Jennifer Buckley, and I am a DCYF employee as well. I am a WA Compass support specialist, and I am located in Olympia, Washington.
Thank you, Jennifer. Angelia, yep, I thank you. I see your introduction in the chat.
I'd be happy to go next. I'm Erin Shuck. I'm DCYS staff. I work with the Merit Workforce Registry team, and I'm located in Olympia as well.
Thank you, Erin.
I'll go next. Hi, I'm Brian Trimble. I'm owner of a private pay organization. And well, sorry, that was wasn't me. But private pay organization in Spokane, Washington.
Thanks, Brian.
Hi, I'm Julie Shrouth. I own Creative Kids Learning Center in Kitsap County, and yep, center provider. Thanks.
Thanks, Julie. All right. Do you want me to just start calling people out? I will go down who I have on screen. I'll just go down. Let's see. How about Leslie Smith?
Hi, my name is Leslie Smith. I work for DCYF on the professional development team, and I live in University Place, Washington.
Thank you, Leslie. Welcome. Sandra Nelson. Not sure she's connected to audio yet. Oh, there you are, Sandra.
Good evening, Sandra Nelson. I'm in Southeast Seattle, and we are a family provider.
Welcome. Thanks, Sandra. Laura Murphy-Taylor.
Hi, my name is Laura Murphy with Taylor Tots Child Care Centers in Yakima, Washington, and I have 2 centers here in Yakima. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. How about Jessica Hertline?
Good evening, everyone. I'm Jessica Hertline. I'm with the community engagement team out of the Spokane area.
Thanks, Jessica. Sorry, I'm scrolling. Colleen Condon.
Hi, Colleen Condon, Spokane, Washington, and I'm a center provider.
Thanks, Colleen. Angela Abrams. Right, she might not be able to talk at the moment. I know she's going to be presenting, so she'll introduce herself later. Let's see, Jessica Spencer.
Hi, everyone. Jessica Spencer with the community engagement team. Closest is Vancouver area.
Thanks, Jessica. Lisa Warren, I know you just logged in, so we're just doing introductions. I don't want to like surprise you. Just sharing your name, where you're located, and if you're a center, provider, family, home, FFN, public attendee, or staff. So Lisa, if you're ready, feel free to unmute.
Hi there, Lisa Warren, Everett, Washington, Midwest Child Care.
Thank you.
Yeah, I can go ahead and go. Somehow I got kicked off and I'm back again.
No worries, I knew you'd be back.
I could hear you, but you all, I could hear you, but you couldn't hear me. Hi, everyone. Good to see some familiar faces tonight. My name is Angela Abrams, and I am the DCYF Professional Development Administrator.
Thank you. Rocio?
Hello. Yeah. Hi. This is Rocio, and pretty much I'm located here in Issaquah, and I have a family home daycare and plus a small center in both in the city of Issaquah. Thank you.
Thank you, Rocio. All right, Emily Morgan.
Hello, I'm Emily Morgan with the DCYF Community Engagement Team, and I am located in Spokane. I have my windows open, so I'm sorry if there's some background noise. I'm kind of on a busy street. Thank you.
Thanks, Emily. So I'm pretty sure we got everyone. If I missed anyone, please feel free to unmute yourself and share or put it in the chat. I know we had a couple people do that. All right, can we go to the next slide? So in the chat, there will be a Mentimeter link. And if you can click on that and share as a child, what did you want to be when you grew up? There's a lot of variety here. Awesome. And I see sorry. Okay, I don't know. I'm echoey. Someone else must have been echoey. Okay. So there's a lot of people that put in the chat as well. So if you didn't get a chance to see those, they're over there. We have a Sonic basketball player. That's awesome, Kathy. Another teacher. Rocio wanted to help people, and you are doing that. And teacher at Helen Keller Institute. All right. We love doing these fun ones, as you know, and you're well aware for attending these meetings with us before. So I'm going to turn it over to Emily. And she will kick us off. Okay. Go forward, Emily. Yep, there you are.
Thanks, Anna. To start us off, we're going to have reps from the professional development team. Oh, we shared the feedback loop, right? Did anybody have any questions about the feedback loop before we moved on to our first presentation? Okay, if you think of any, be sure to email us and we will address them. To start us off, we have some representatives from the professional development team, Angela Abrams and Aaron Schock, who will be presenting on merit. And I will turn it over to you guys to introduce yourselves further. Thank you.
Thanks, Emily. And I'm going to very quickly turn it over to Aaron. so just to do that openly, go for it.
I was like, I don't want to overtalk her. Yeah. Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me here tonight. I feel like I've seen a couple of your faces in previous meetings, so it's nice to see you again. Just to, again, reintroduce myself in case you didn't catch it. Aaron Schock, I'm part of the professional development team, and I work really closely with our Merit Workforce Registry. And today, I'm going to be giving you guys a little spiel about it. Emily, do you mind hitting the slide for us? Thank you. So for tonight, I'm going to be giving kind of an overview of merit. I know it's very familiar with merit, but just to kind of ground us down and make sure we all have that baseline understanding, I'm going to just start by giving us kind of a background and purpose for merit. We're going to touch base on how the system gets updated, as well as some of the tools that exist in merit and reports and management tools. I do intend to spend a good chunk of the time on questions, only because I find them so valuable. I think it's a wonderful way to exchange information. So, and hopefully be able to maybe even demo some things for you all on this call. And I apologize too, I have little ones, so hopefully you're not going to hear them in the background too much. Please let me know if it's distracting. Thank you. All right, so merit is Washington State Workforce Registry, and it's the official system of record for early learning professionals across the state. It's an online system, but I really love to think about it as kind of a big filing cabinet that has records for all the professionals that make up the early learning workforce. In Merit, an individual can go in and they can build a professional record. And really that's where you get to record your employment history, your training, the experience you have, and all of your educational accomplishments. It's where you can go complete a portable background check. You can find training opportunities. And in addition to that, employers can view those professional records and employee lists for their site. Merit, the information that's collected in Merit is really vital because it helps policymakers identify and analyze barriers to access and support career advancements, and then strategize on how to do program-wide improvements. And it's also really crucial for encouraging just the increased recognition and compensation of a well-qualified workforce. That's kind of the background for what can happen in Merit. Emily, do you mind the next slide? Thank you. Now, since Merit has been around, which I believe was 2012, was when it initially started, it's really evolved because the workforce and the needs have evolved. And as the system changes, there's a couple ways, and I just want to touch base on how those system changes happen and how we engage people in those changes. So for Merit, there is no formal provider advisory group whose sole purpose is for advising on Merit system updates. Instead, what we do is we use existing spaces to gather guidance and feedback from the workforce. And those include webinars that we host, as well as focus groups that are usually in a webinar format, other pilot groups, and of course the inquiries we receive from the field. So the questions that come through, we track those trends on what is it people are really needing, where are we seeing a lot of questions coming in, and that really drives a lot of the decisions that we do and how Merit evolves. We host these webinars in English and Spanish in the past. We did that for a recent enhancement we made for our dashboard, which I'll get into a little bit later. And we're excited because we're soon going to be able to host these webinars in both Somali and Russian. All right, thank you. So in addition to an individual person being able to go in and create their own professional record, in Merit, we have employers and grantees and contractors can go in and view an employee list and manage that list through a tool called the Facility Site Details page. And really this allows them to link to that professional record, confirm completions of trainings like health and safety trainings, and end date employment records. Now, to ensure the protection of an individual's personal information, there's a couple limitations on what an employer or grantee contractor can do. For instance, they can't add or remove information, and they can't complete applications on an individual's behalf. Thank you. So this is just kind of a view. Oh, and I'm hoping you guys can see that okay, and it's not too blurry on your end. But this is just kind of a view of what that facility site page looks like. And I'm sure many of you probably use this. It has that employee list, so you can see everyone that has active employment connected to that facility site. It also gives you, just in those columns across the top, some information like what trainings requirements were met, portable background checks, health and safety, how long they've had their employment record at that site. And Emily, if you don't mind going to the next slide. We're really excited because in June, we are actually going to be making some updates to this page for licensed child care centers and family homes. And a couple of the updates we're making include we are going to be adding a link that allows an employer or a licensee to preview the dashboard for a staff member. And what the dashboard is it's the landing page someone comes to after they've signed into their Merit account. And it gives them this snapshot, kind of like at a glance look, to let them know where they're at in meeting staff qualifications for their role. So in their professional record, they kind of have all the nitty-gritty details. And in that dashboard, it's just an at a glance look that's color coded. So you have, green for someone who's met a requirement, yellow indicates something that's in progress, you have time to complete it, and red would mean that, oh, there's something you really need to be paying attention here. And like I said, employers and licensees are going to be able to preview that dashboard from the facility site details page. In addition to that, we're going to be making some updates to the column headers so that there's new data fields people can look at, and we'll be adding some filter abilities. So you can really refine the information that you look at. I think of this a lot with some larger centers, that have a lot of people on their list, and they can filter down information. And if we click to the next slide, I can actually give you a screenshot of what that would kind of look like. So you can see across the top, where it kind of boxed out in red, you can see those filters that we added. So I would be able to go in and say, okay, I want to look at all my center lead teachers. And I'm really curious about everyone who maybe has an unmet portable background check. I can filter down that information, and then there's actually an export button where I can have that reported out for me. And then on the left side of the screen, you kind of see in that, again, red box, there's those icons that say dashboard. And that's where I can click and see that view, so I know what is it that this individual really needs to be working on, and hopefully, how can I help support them in that? So that's just a really quick, very quick slapdash overview of what Merit is and some of the main tools that it's used for. And now I was really hoping to open it up for any questions anyone may have, and then potentially take a peek at that dashboard, because that tends to be where people have a lot of questions. I see in the chat, and I'm going to look at the chat too, but I see that there's some questions coming through. It's great that we can see background checks in Merit, but not so great that there's an expectation that all staff records being met. Weirdly, the WAC even says paper records can be thrown out after verified in Merit. Julie, did you want to expand on that a little more?
Oh, I mean, it used to be a voluntary thing, and now it's like required, and licensors will tell providers, you need to update your Merit, because otherwise they can write you up for it, unfortunately. And I find that paper records are better. I've had employees say all my stuff's in Merit. You can see that my last director put in the dates of all my CPR and TB and all that stuff. And I'm like, I literally don't care. I want to see it myself. So I need the paper record. And I think that that should be acceptable to a licensor, that I want to have all my paper records. And I know I can, but the idea that they can write me up if I fall behind on updating it in Merit seems a little weird, because I, like everybody, have so much on my plate that this just isn't that high on my priorities, honestly.
Yeah. I think you make some really interesting points on that. And I know one of the benefits of going online is hopefully to allow people to carry this professional record with them throughout their career, to not rely so heavily on paper. But I definitely know that there is that standard of paper records and the benefit of that. So I really do appreciate that feedback. Thank you, Julie. Laura, did I see a hand raised?
Yes, I have a question. So I'm wondering if there's ever going to be a way for an employer to be able to submit records on behalf of their employees, because to be honest, Merit doesn't reply to staff members in a timely fashion, and it takes days and days and days, and they don't have time to be able to answer the phone when they're in a classroom during the hours of your operation. And I don't even know how to submit records on their behalf. But that would be very helpful, because when you're requiring this, staff are working during the day, and they're just not techie people to be able to do it independently. And I need to be able to help them, and I'm wondering if there's an option.
Well, I think it might be helpful if maybe is it okay, Emily, if I have screen sharing abilities to maybe pull up the dashboard and show some of the new features that we have?
Yes, definitely. Jessica, can you hand over screen share to Erin? Awesome.
So, Laura, thank you so much for providing that input. I really do appreciate it. And can you guys see my screen? Are you seeing a web page right now? Yeah, thumbs up. Okay, thank you.
You're good, Erin.
Yeah. I feel like, thank you, I appreciate it. So what I feel like, Laura, what I heard you say, I think you said a couple of really important things, was that, man, sometimes you don't get a really prompt response. And to that, I can say, yes, that is something that we're working on. Our navigation team is growing, and we're hoping that that will help provide more a faster response time for when people are reaching out, and more thorough and detailed. That team is growing. I think we have 7 people now that are helping with these inquiries that are coming in, and we're also expanding the language access support that we're able to provide, so that we're hopefully able to provide support not just in English or Spanish, but also now we have staff members that can provide support in Somali and in Russian and Ukrainian, and hopefully that will grow. But I also heard you say, like, man, it can be complicated for people to input information into Merit. And that's where some of our newer enhancements are coming in that I'm hoping can start alleviating some of that stress, or at least kind of putting a dent in it. So what we're looking at right now, some of you may already have this, maybe some of you don't, but this is our new provider dashboard that I kind of hinted at in the presentation. This came out, I think it was the end of September, so it's still fairly new. And it's that at a glance where someone's at in meeting their staff qualifications. So one of the things I heard you say was, like, how can we input? How do people even know how to input? I don't have it now to where, an employer can go in and submit education on someone's behalf, but we are building out the system to hopefully be more intuitive. So for instance, here, we have Obi-Wan Kenobi, which is a fake account that we're looking at. And it's funny that this is May 4th, of course. But here we have someone that has, for instance, their hiring education. It's yellow, which indicates, hey, this is something that's in progress that you need to be working towards. And these status bars, like I mentioned, are color-coded to let you know if you've met it. It's green. If it's gray, it means that actually doesn't apply to your role. So for instance, a center lead teacher, you don't need to have prior experience in. Some roles do require that. And yellow for in progress. If I click on this button, it'll drop it down and it's going to tell me exactly what I'm needing for that role requirement. So for here, I'm a center lead teacher. For my hiring education, I need to have a high school diploma or an equivalent to that. And it's going to say, hey, if you need to submit education, here's a link to the education application. Hopefully, what we are finding is that having this be kind of more streamlined and letting you know exactly what you need to do when you log in and a little bit more intuitive to the user, we're seeing a huge increase in the number of people who are going in and able to get those records in, I think more so than we've ever seen in the past. That also includes like listing out like, hey, and again, this is a fake account, so this person doesn't really have a background check that's not done, but it's going to let you know like, hey, these are the things you need to be paying attention to. You need a portable background check that you need to be submitting. So hopefully that will help alleviate some of the pressure and help the individual really have that autonomy to go in and build out their record. And I think I saw someone in the chat mention the gray. So like I just touched base on, if it's gray, that means, hey, you do not need it. This doesn't apply to you. Are there more questions that are coming through? Let me pull up the chat. And if you have any follow-up questions, please, I mean, you can put it in the chat, but also feel free to just ask me directly. I'd be happy to go over anything again. I can talk a little fast sometimes. Okay.
I do agree that this is going to be better, but it's still not a complete option for employers when we're the ones that gets a write-up, right, and needs to try to be in compliance, but we don't have access to be able to be in compliance. And sometimes the staff members don't know how to navigate that system. So I really think there should be a way for us to submit it, or they do need to take the paper records because we always have those. And so if the system's still being rebuilt, we need more time to have all of our merits up to date.
Yeah. And I can't speak too closely on licensing compliance because I don't oversee that. But I do hear what you're saying on that. And in the merit enhancement, so the first one we did was the dashboard. The next one is updating that facility site page to include more tools for an employer on that page so that you get to see their dashboard. It's no longer such a mystery like, hey, what do you have in your professional record? Do I have to look through the whole page and all the detail? You'll have that snapshot tool as well. So hopefully as we build out more tools, we'll be alleviating more and more of that stress. I don't know if we'd ever get to a place where an employer can enter, but I'm not sure. This is the feedback loop that we're having and taking in for future enhancements.
Well, there's some good questions in the chat, so hopefully you can get to those.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Thank you. Let me go take a peek at those. So let's see. The question, how do employment laws regarding personal records align with licensing rules and employee records? I'm not sure if I'd be able to speak for employment laws regarding licensing, because again, that's not my area of expertise. I don't know if Angela or Leslie on the call has anything input, but I'd be happy, Susan, to reach out to maybe our licensing division. And if you wanted to direct message me your email, I could see if I could find out information on that and pass it back to you. Okay.
I think, Erin, if I can take that in connection with, Julie, I was just about to respond to you in the chat, but I feel like this is a little bit connected in a strange way, at least in my brain. We have heard too, related to Julie's question about how do we indicate if someone might be center or program hopping and something has come up. So let's say someone was let go and maybe it was a big issue, maybe it was a big finding in some situation, or maybe it wasn't something so huge, but there was a character judgment or something that showed up that, you know, people really wanted to note. We don't have a way to collect that information. We don't ask for it. And it's recently come up not only in the situation about staff in general, but also as it relates to the substitute pool. or as it relates to other people, maybe in a program. And so I would be curious to maybe learn more about what that could look like. I think it connects to privacy when we start thinking about things that were maybe unfounded or things that, you know, might be a judgment call from one facility to another. And so we've really tried to pride ourselves in the fact that merit is tied to an individual. That being said, when someone has even an outcome that might prevent them from having access to children, maybe they have a background check that's been suspended or revoked, we know that they can't go to another facility because the background check process has protected us in being able to know that. So I think there's a lot to uncover there, but I do think it's something that, you know, is worth spending more time on. I see a lot of hands go up.
Add to that, you could have somebody that does something in the facility that doesn't rise to the level of abuse or their background check being pulled, but it does end up with a compliance issue on the center's record that then lives for what, 7 years or something online, so parents can view it. That is a source of frustration for folks because the violation was really tied to a person and should be tied to a person, so that other employers know that there was something that resulted in a violation. And also it shouldn't live on the center's record if they were not at fault.
And as it relates to the individual, and then I see both Brian and Sandra have hands up too. You know, I think there's been other ways where we've brainstormed and not ever put anything out. I think this is a great, you know, extension of a conversation that could be had. But is there a way that someone can look at employment history and then it's on that program to call and say, hey, can I get a reference for this individual? Because then it removes merit and DCYF from being the conduit of that conversation and sharing of information. And it's really based on the people who are either hiring that individual. So
no, I completely agree with you if employers were sharing, but we all feel like our hands are tied. The HR person will just say that they were hired and then they were, you know, what the dates were of employment, and the legalities of it are worrisome, I would say. But if there's a direct correlation to a WAC violation, it feels like it should be in merit.
Definitely hear you, Julie, and I think there's some great ideas to what you're saying.
If I could just toss in, Angela, thank you for naming the point of privacy and confidentiality. We don't want to breach employees' privacy and confidentiality. I thought there was a good suggestion. I know I talked with Travis, and I think he's had that same conversation with you about it. It's about just showing what sites that an individual has been on, or what organizations they've been associated to. So whenever they get tied to merit, it doesn't have to have anything more than that. Because generally, if I look at a resume or something along that line, and you're omitting a couple of those, it starts asking some questions. So I think it's more from the perspective is that the goal here is obviously to make sure kids stay safe. We don't want any organizations out there to have somebody that's a repeat offender or somebody that's potentially causing harm to students. We want to just make sure that we're protecting not only the students that we work with, but also the program that we provide, and then also the families that we serve. So I think there's a way to do it. And I'm a big fan of the idea of anytime we can protect people's privacy and confidentiality, even if somebody is guilty of doing something inappropriate, I still want their privacy to be upheld. But we should be able to see that list of what if it is 17 different organizations within Spokane? That's would raise a question to me. Why have you been to so many different facilities? So ultimately the end goal here obviously is still, again, about making sure people stay safe. And that's our main objective here. Thank you.
No, thank you, Brian. That's great. Susan, did you have something? And then I can move also to some of the questions in the chat, but I think, Susan, you maybe had your hand raised.
Sandra did first. So Sandra, you go and then I'll go.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you.
That's all right. Thank you. Question, and this has to do with the background check and the fingerprinting. Are there any thoughts for merit to give us a update on where the applicant is in the process I've had 2 employees that I hired the 14th of April. They still have not gotten an email to go in for fingerprinting. And I don't know what to tell them or what we should do. But when I look in Merit, all it says is it's in process.
Yeah, that's a great question. So the tricky part is the application lives in Merit, but the actual like processing behind the scenes for fingerprinting lives outside of Merit. That is a question. I can bring that back to the background check team to see if they have any great recommendations. But I know that it is a conversation we've had a lot, is how can we keep employers informed on the process and kind of getting like pokes and nudges for their staff members, particularly around applications and hey, so-and-so needs to complete it, or hey, this is where they're at. So I don't know if I have a really good satisfactory answer for you, but I know it's a part of the dialogue happening. And I can also reach out to that background check team, or we can facilitate a conversation between them and you. So if you have some staff members, Sandra, if you'd like to message me on here private chat, I can find that information out and we can get back to you on that. Yeah.
All right, thank you. And Julie's right.
Yeah.
I remember in the old days where we would be CC'd when that email went out regarding the fingerprinting. So we would love to have that back.
That's what I've been hearing. That is what I've been hearing. So those are the discussions where we're having and problem solving about what kind of notifications can go to an employer to kind of help facilitate that a little smoother. So thank you. Susan, did you still have something to say?
I do. So what I wanted to ask about was, so from the standpoint of personnel records and employment law, does DCYF and you folks at Merit actually consult with, is there a legal team that reviews and compares employment law with what you're asking for? Because the privacy concerns that have come up, or some of what I'm hearing raise huge flags for me in terms of employee rights and what could get us into some serious trouble if we infringed on those rights. So I would love to know what kind of work is done on the back end, because it provides protections for everybody, but especially business owners who do not want to be sued because employee records were submitted to Merit and then there was no way to protect them from other people, what they're entitled to from an employee standpoint.
Yeah. So, and you're touching on a lot of the things I think we were gently stating earlier, is that there's a lot to consider. If we were ever at a point where this was something that with licensing in partnership, we wanted to record or collect, I think there's a lot of questions to go over. DCYF does work closely with our Attorney General's office and have representation there. And that's who we would go to for legal counsel on anything that's related to laws and on behalf of the state and on behalf of the people that we're collecting information for. So that would be the protocol. I don't know that we're at a point yet that we've gotten to the place where we have something even conceptually outlined to take back. And I think that's why some of these ideas so far are a blend of what's the real goal that we want to get after. Is there anything that would be more open? Like I see the idea employment history, but that's also something too that could be asked of by the hiring entity, like show me a printout of your merit record as part of an application, because that would also collect that. So I think this could definitely be a place of just brainstorming and conversation at some point to really see if there's a way that doesn't violate privacy and allows the conversation to happen between the individual who's getting hired and that hiring body or employer.
Thank you.
Now, Heather posed a really great question in here in the chat, saying that there's a lot of turnover and that they continue to run into issues with the changes in management and access to the facility site tab, and that I would love to see an admin or an organizational corporate access so we can approve across directors and view all dashboards at multiple sites. Now, I can say the whole access and who gets access to the facility site tab, how many people can have it, is an area of focus right now. We're kind of reviewing how that process works and how we can make that a little smoother so that as the management staff maybe changes, that people don't lose access to it, that it can be maintained in a more seamless way. And in addition to that, I can't speak a ton to it because I'm not a part of this group, but there is currently a organizational pilot that's being conducted, or the planning for that, that really does talk about how could an organization be represented in merit that has multiple sites. How could all of those sites be viewed kind of en masse, including those dashboard records, so that there is a more smooth transfer of information. So if I work at one site and I work at another site, it's all part of the same organization, but that information is shared in a more streamlined way. Hopefully there'll be more to come on that as that pilot progresses. Scroll down, and I'm so sorry, I'm not tracking time. Are we still good on time, Emily?
Yeah, and Erin, I'm going to kick you this question that Julie just asked, because I think you're going to be the pro on the day-to-day of this. Can an individual currently in current practice delete any of their employment history? And I'll preface by saying, if that is true, oh, they can't, because I think that's kind of been a recent change where they can't, right? Go ahead, Erin.
Yeah, no, the employment information section is kind of one of the lockdown places in Merit. So it takes DCYF admin to even edit it. So once I enter an employment record, I have the ability to go in and add an end date. But that's pretty much, once it's entered, the limited ability that anyone has. Obviously, like an employer or a licensee can go in and confirm an employment record, but I can't, the individual or the employer or licensee can't delete it. You can't change what role someone had, like say, oh, this is an aide, no, now they're a lead teacher. That's why we do have those individual role records that have to be recorded in there. If there is a mistake, like someone accidentally put in the wrong start date, that's where Merit support can come in and edit that information. But right now, nothing can be deleted from it. Good question. And oh, Emily says we're good on time. Okay, good.
Can I ask another question?
Oh, please. Yes, Julie, of course.
I often will have people in my Merit account still that no longer work for me because they are coming back. I know they'll be back on their breaks from college, all their breaks from college. Or I also have another person that subs for me from time to time. So they might be in a spot where their CPR has expired and I know I won't see them for 3 months or something. Is there not a way to list them as a sub or as an inactive or something?
That's a really good question. Currently how their system would work is if they're not an active employee, they could end date their employment, and then when they get, let's say if they're gone for the winter months and they only work in the summer or vice versa, they would end date that employment record, and then when they came back, they would start a new one.
Yeah, but you know, a lot of our staff don't even remember their logins. I mean,
people go in every now and then just to do their portable background check. I hear you. So I think what you're suggesting is if there was like a temporary hold and how that would look, to almost like pause someone's account. Is that kind of what you're thinking? Like,
yeah, I mean, if seasonal staff and also subs, somebody that may not be available for, you know, a while, but then they come in and cover someone's vacation for a week and I would put them back on active. That would be nice.
I see. Yeah, that is a really good suggestion. I'm trying to think of how we would run that, but no, thank you for that input, Julie.
I noted it in the chat, Julie, so we can keep the chat and capture any of the ideas there as well. Emily, I noticed something that you just want to check in on process. I know we have a good number of people here and want to make sure we get time to hear from everyone. And I see you saying if we don't have time for breakouts, I don't think Erin and I were tracking that we wanted to break out. We absolutely can go into smaller groups. We have staff here too that can help split up into being in those small groups and to hear some suggestions and thoughts. But I'll turn it to all of you. Do you want to stay together or do you want to go into smaller groups? We definitely have time for either.
Is this the main topic or are we going to hear some more information?
This is the main and if you want to hear something, we definitely can share, but there's another speaker after us.
No, I'm just saying if this is all we're talking about, then I think, you know, people either be in the chat or speak up. We're not a shy group. So I think if we want to say something, we'll just say it.
Okay. And then I see the question here about the substitute pool that's offered through the Imagine Institute, and subs with the Imagine Institute, the way their records work is that there's like this separate profile that says, I want to be a substitute, and they're managed and recorded that way. Then we maintain their role qualifications and we release daily uploads to the Imagine Institute of just the individuals who are where they are in the process, if they've been approved or cleared with a background check. And so they know those qualifications have been met as if they would be if they were in one of your programs as like a lead teacher. So then what ends up occurring is they can take that information and place them within a facility knowing that that's updated on a daily basis. So when someone is showing up and they are been placed by the Imagine Institute, licensing then knows, I have everything okayed on the merit side, just like they would for another staff person.
Are you guys going over WA Compass too, or is that a separate group for, I know it was on the agenda.
Yes, we have different presenters here to go over WA Compass. So that will be after the merit presentation. So we do have 2 presentations tonight, but we're good. If you guys would rather stay in the large group, we'll just send the Jamboards out with a follow-up email. I'm sorry, there's so many motorcycles going by right now. So yeah, we can just stay in this large group and not go into breakout rooms if that's what you guys would prefer.
And I'm wondering, so is all of this review and presentation, because this is the licensing subcommittee, what is the intent? What are we hoping to achieve with this?
We are hoping to get recommendations from providers on ways that the licensing process can be improved. So things like Julie's suggestion of having a pause or a hold for employees in merit. Those are things that we're tracking in our minutes and our recommendation tracker. And the group will be working on later this summer and fall on putting together a recommendation report.
So the licensing process period, or just as it relates to merit? I'm a little confused about that.
The licensing process in total, but for tonight, we're just discussing merit and the WA Compass. So,
so you only want us to talk about, this topic tonight?
This and WA Compass, yes. But if you have any feedback on any other licensing topics, you can always email them to the DCYF community engagement team, and we can add them to our recommendation tracker.
Okay, so I just asked one of my staff about merit, and the one thing that they thought was problematic is that if you change a job description, then we can't change your job description. The employee has to change their job description. And that seems weird that they have the power to say what they are in merit, but we can't say what they are. So she was just saying that seems odd.
The way that I would, go ahead, Erin.
Oh no, I just wanted to clarify to make sure I was understanding correctly. So you're saying when they go in and add their employment records, they're the ones that get to say what role they're working in. And that seems unusual because it should be the employer to say, okay, now you're a center lead teacher. Am I understanding that correctly?
You are understanding it correctly.
Okay. Really with merit, how that professional record works is for that individual to create their own profile. Because again, that's kind of what travels with you throughout your career. But I will say there are times when people don't understand correctly what role they should be in, if they're an assistant or if they're a lead. And sometimes that even takes conversations with licensors to really say, like, what are these duties? What are you doing? What is
I know we've had to just delete them. We've just deleted. Like you're in here too many times.
Oh, where there's mistakes. And yeah, I think that streamlining, so I will say that as we're working in Merit, as we're streamlining our dashboard and streamlining other areas of employment, and that facility site is definitely areas of focus. But sometimes it does just take those conversations and a little bit of digging with the employer and even the licensor, like I said. And if something's incorrectly added, we can work with Merit support to get that updated and removed. But I don't know if we have it yet where an employer can actually go in, because there are some limitations what an employer could do. Like I said at the beginning, just for protections of personal information, the employer can't do a lot of adding and removing records right now, at least. Does that answer your question? I'm so sorry. I didn't even catch who was speaking.
That was Angela, and yes, it did. Thank you very much.
Oh, hi, Angela. Of course, thank you. It's a great question. I appreciate it. Thank you.
So Erin, you have another question on here. Where does someone go if they want more training on how to do this stuff, how to navigate, how to learn the system better? Yeah. What either do we have or what can we do?
Yeah. So there's a couple things. I've been with the team for the last 2 years, and we have slowly been documenting and recording stuff online, and we're hoping to get even more. I can put a web page link into the chat there. This is the our DCYF webpage that talks specifically about, I would almost say, like Merit instructions. How-to steps, like how do I enter an education application? How do I do a portable background check? If you scroll down on that page, it's broken up into topic areas. So kind of like what we call general Merit support. That could be like, I need to change my name because I got married, and education, and then training. So these really just have written how-to instructions for various areas in Merit. We're hoping to grow this out to include video tutorials as well, and to have those available in different languages, because we have a very diverse and varied workforce. So right now, this is probably one of the best places to go if you have some questions about functionality in Merit. And then the next, of course, is Merit support. I know that it was mentioned earlier about how it can be challenging sometimes with the wait time, and especially when the dashboard went live, we had a huge influx of inquiries that happened as people were getting their information in, which I always say glass half full, because so many more people have really robust profiles now. But you can always reach out to Merit support, and we would be happy to call you and walk you through with it. We can call and talk to a center director and kind of talk about tools and tricks for managing the profile, giving demos if need be. So those are some ways that I would suggest for now, and hopefully we'll have more resources and support in the future.
Erin, if someone has a specific topic that they can't find, or that they would like a guide or a video for, how would you like to receive that, as, you know, just as a suggestion as they come up? Should they email the Merit inbox, or what's a good way to get that?
Merit is one of the best. The best place is honestly Merit. Now, we we record all inquiries that come in, like topic areas, so we can really see like what are some areas. Like a lot of people are reaching out about ed verification or international ed, and that's driving some of our work that we're doing right now and updating some of our policies. But it's also where we gather feedback from people, like, hey, it would be really great. One thing we heard a lot was, hey, it would be really great if primary contact didn't lose access for facility site. And that's an area of focus we're doing right now with the developers. Or if someone's like, I need a guide in Mandarin, we can work with some of our other teams and language access teams and see how can we support that? How can we get that available? So Merit is really one of the best places to reach out. And then we can kind of funnel it out to the different teams and that are connected to Merit and get some support for you.
This next one has a few questions in it, so I'm going to break it down for you. What can you say about digital upload, document upload? Why don't we do it? Are we going to ever do it?
Oh man, wouldn't that be great? Document upload, especially if you're talking about education, there's a lot of laws around that, FERPA laws, protection laws, that require a lot of security elements. I think that we are looking in the future for how something like that could happen in a system where you could have kind of a document repository. So I know, Julie, you referenced earlier the hard copy, like I want to see it. I don't want to just hear that you completed CPR. I want to see that certificate and how we could record something. So it is something we're looking to for the future, but there's a lot of components, working parts that we're kind of puzzling through for how that could be achieved.
And so when we do get to that point, just to finish up that question there from Colleen, when we do get to that point, because it is something that we're hopeful of getting to, we do hope for it to be a place where you can see it, you know it's there, and you would feel confident in the ability to know that that's been uploaded with, you know, validity. So yeah, you're right. Going on to that next one, Erin, about international or translation of degrees, but I would also say just our update on our international process.
Yeah, absolutely. So we are kind of been doing a big overhaul. It's not been published yet, so you're going to kind of get a sneak peek. But we are really overhauling our international education verification policies and process. So right now it's a pretty cumbersome process, to be honest. So it involves the need for a NACES course-by-course evaluation and translation, which can be very costly for the individual. And so we are developing a new process that will allow the bulk of education coming in not have to be translated, and it doesn't have to have a course-by-course evaluation. We will be doing, we have a new, we'll have a new credentialing specialist, and we have new tools at our disposal that allow us to review education and the US equivalency and record those into Merit. So hopefully the translation, the need for translations will greatly reduce. And that will be coming soon, hopefully in July. And we'll be putting out notifications about that. Thank you. These are really great questions coming in. I really appreciated them.
I have one more question. I know I've asked a lot, but would there be a way that we could get, like, as a center and a lot of time that a Merit person could work with our staff for like an hour straight, so we can get everybody where they need to be in one sitting? Because I have like different staff calling in, and then they're not available for a return call because they're in a classroom, and I could just get everybody wiped out in one session.
Yeah, Laura, that's great. And you're not asking too many questions, by the way. I love it when people ask questions and engage. So our team was originally like 2 people, and now we're 7. So we're growing, and those are the type of things that we're wanting to do. We haven't fully like kicked off and figured out all the kinks of that, but absolutely, I think that we could do something where we meet with an hour and kind of go through and kind of give an overview of things and make sure that the whole staff feels comfortable and confident about what needs to happen in there and how they can do it. So yeah, absolutely. In fact, I'm going to take your name, and I'm going to try to email you after this meeting so that we can connect, and maybe we can figure something out for that.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Erin, the next one is about educational timeline. So once you get everything entered into Merit, what happens next? What timelines are we in? And maybe say a little bit about the agreement that we have to be able to enter education on behalf with verified data from the colleges.
Oh, thank you. Yes, Angela. So education, that's a great topic. Hiring education, so on the dashboard, and you'll see that education is yellow, and that's really because we have time and for people to be in progress towards meeting it. So for the full job role education, everyone has 5 years from the date of hire to complete that full job role education.
I'm sorry, that's not what I meant. That's not what I meant.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yep, I didn't want you to go. I didn't want you to go down the path. No, I'm talking about when they have their transcript and they submit it in. How long do you all have an expectation that says within 20 days we will make sure that is done? Because we're having a problem where people have said, I've submitted. And then we're an ECAP. So then folks look in there and they say, we don't see it. And the staff can't do anything about it if they've turned it over to you all. So is there an expectation that once we've gotten it 20 days from now, we're going to upload it or something like that?
Yeah, no, totally. That's a great question. So once all required supporting documents for what's been submitted, we have received it. And I will say one of the biggest struggles we have, and we're problem solving this through, is sometimes we don't receive all the documentation that's been added to an application. So to verify a degree, for instance, we need a copy, not the official, but a copy of the official transcript. And often we will receive an unofficial transcript. But once we receive the documentation that's needed to verify that education, DCYF is committed to having that verified in there within 45 business days. Right now, we're getting a little before that, so it's not taking quite that full 45, but that's the expectation is 45. And on that link for that Merit Workforce Registry instructional page, it talks a little more in detail about that, to talk about the timeline and then also the specifics of what's needed. You can see a grid that says, this is what I'm submitting, this is the documentation we would need, and that's a fairly new update to that webpage. And they found it's been really helpful for people in knowing what needs to get entered. Does that answer your question, Angela?
That is, because then I can tell our folks that, look, it's been submitted. Here's the date they did it. Wait your 45 days. But we have a paper.
Yes.
Paper of it. Okay, thanks.
Yes. And I will say that there's also a status on that education when you have your application that will say something like awaiting documents. And our ed verification team tries their best to email people and say, hey, this is what we're needing and we're still waiting for it. So they should also check their email pretty frequently in case there's something that's been missed or to review that status. Great question. And then Angela had mentioned something as well. One of the areas we're also trying to really streamline the ed verification is for those individuals that are participating in our Early Achievers Grants or receiving a scholarship, DCYS is going to be moving towards the ability to record that education that was earned through that scholarship or grant into merit, and to eliminate the need for those individuals to complete the application and to submit their supporting documents. We have created articulation agreements with the colleges and with the state board to be able to record that education on their behalf into the system, so they're not having to do that, which is pretty exciting. All right. Are there any more questions coming through? These have been great, and thank you. I feel like we've veered over a lot of topics, and thank you for going along for the ride. I really appreciated that. I always appreciate it in these conversations. People are really flexible. You clearly are used to working with children. Well, thank you all so much. Emily, should I be passing the mic back to you or over to Jennifer?
Sorry about that. I was double muted on my phone and my computer. So we do have a break scheduled from 7:15 to 7:25, but I wanted to check in with the group. Do you want to take a break, or do you want to keep going and head into the WA Compass presentation and then potentially end early? Or if you have a lot of questions for the WA Compass team, we'll skip the break. What is the feeling? Keep going? Okay. One vote for keep going. Skip the break.
Going.
Okay. All right. Looks like everybody wants to keep going. So we will turn it over to Michelle Sampillo and Jennifer Buckley, who will provide an overview of the functionality of the WA Compass provider portal.
Thank you, Emily. Yeah, it's a mouthful. So I am going to be like Angela. I'm going to just really quickly just turn it over to Jennifer, because she has so graciously accepted to kind of go through and give a kind of an overview and a look into the provider portal so everyone can get a glance at it and see what it is.
Okay, thank you, Michelle. Can everyone hear me okay? Good. Okay, so I'm just going to start by introducing myself again. My name is Jennifer Buckley. I am a WaCompass provider portal support specialist. And while I have not been in a lot of meetings with you, I believe I've had some contact via telephone or email to help get some functionality kinks worked out or to set up applications for you guys. And so I am just going to go ahead and turn my video off and share my screen. And I don't really have a slideshow. I'm just going to kind of walk you through the portal. And I'm going to give you an insight first. So the WaCompass Provider Portal is a tool that providers can use to have direct communication with their licensors and to also request changes. So I'm going to go ahead and stop this and share my screen. Okay, can everyone see my screen?
Nope.
No, okay.
No.
Well, that's not working. That's great. Okay, let's try this. Now can everyone see my screen?
No.
Yeah, black screen.
A black screen.
Maybe mine's just delayed.
Delete.
Yeah, it's black. But
Yep,
it says,
me too.
But it says you're sharing, but it's, I don't know, but we don't see anything.
You don't see anything. I'm going to try again. I'm so sorry, you guys. Screen one, sharing.
There
we go.
Now we see.
Yay, you don't understand my happy face. I wish I would have been on camera. You guys would have seen how happy I am. Okay, so what you're seeing right now is the WaCompass Provider Portal login page. If you haven't previously logged into the provider portal, you are going to need to reach out to us, and our contact information can be found below the login bar here. That way we can go ahead and send you the initial link so that you can create a password. And so I'm just gonna hope this works right now. Log in. So that takes me to our WaCompass Provider Portal landing page. And there's a few things that I'm gonna show you. So this is our blue ribbon that has drop down arrows. And then, but before we get started, I'm just gonna go ahead and show you the very beginning up here at the select language tab. If you prefer to view the portal in a different language, you can go up to this Google Select Language tab up in the right-hand side corner, and you can click the downward arrow, and then it brings up a bunch of different languages that you can select to make it easier for you to navigate. So the second thing that I'm going to show you is we do tend to get a lot of questions for people that have multiple facilities or are primary contacts for multiple facilities. We do underneath this, this selection, you can go ahead and click the downward arrow and you can navigate between each facility. And once you click on that different facility, it brings up all of the information for that specific facility. So next, I'm going to go down to my lovely little help tab. And if you click on this, this is a great tool for providers. This has a useful links tool where you can click on that and it will bring up a lot of DCYF useful links and information. So you don't have to log out of this and get back onto our website. And also we have our tip sheets. So our tip sheets, we have tip sheets and we keep them very up to date with all new functionality. And if any functionality changes, we update these, and everything that you can possibly do in WACompass is listed in 3 different languages underneath these tip sheet tab. And they're very, very step-by-step and super easy to follow. If you ever get lost, you can just go right here to our little house and click on it, and it will bring us right back to our home landing page. And then I'm going to go ahead and show you this as well. I get a lot of questions and a lot of requests for people to have access to WACompass. Currently, 2 people at a time could have access to WACompass at a time. And usually that is, I would like a director, and then that director would be listed as a primary contact in our system. And let's just say, for example, you have a program supervisor, or you have an assistant director that needs access. You can go ahead and click on this logins button right here, and you can switch between the people that need access. And you can do that numerous times. So let's say you needed this person to need access, you would click on that, and it would give that person their access, and they could use their own login to log into the portal via that way. So I'm going to go ahead and scroll down here to our landing page. And as you can see, there's a bunch of little gray subtabs listed here. The first one is the provider information. And as you can see, some of the fields are grayed out. Those are the fields that you as a provider can't change. You would have to contact your licensor and reach out to them and have them make the changes. But there are some things that we've just recently added for providers to use as marketing tools, because as you know, most of the things in WACompass also goes to our public facing childcare check website. So you can add your childcare business name. You can add a provider description. You can add, you can add a logo, and your logo and your description, actually send an email to your licensor and have them look it over and make sure that there's no profanity or any pictures of children that shouldn't be on there. You can also select your primary language and your languages spoken and your languages of instruction. And as you'll come down here, we get a lot of calls where people are asking questions why the director field doesn't show up. This is a known integration issue, and it is on the list of things that need to be fixed. So we are aware of it. You can also add slots available and the ages of the slots that you have available. And then if you come down here, we have our launch classroom management button. And what that does is you can go in and add a classroom. That also notifies the licensor that you're adding a classroom, just so they're aware. For instance, if you were going to try to add an infant room, they would need to know so that they could let you know that you would probably need to get a hold of the fire marshal for an approval of that. So I'm going to go back up here, and then I'm going to click on the schedule subtab. And this tab is pretty self-explanatory. You can add if you're open year-round, if you accept full-time students, or if you accept part-time students. And then you can add your schedule and you can change it accordingly. And then you would hit submit, and then it would change that, and it would show up on childcare check as your schedule, kind of as a marketing tool. So this is our professionals tab. And I want to explain this. This shows people that are currently, and unfortunately, currently, it shows people that are past employees, even if they're undated at Merit. And like, it is a known integration issue with Merit, and we are working to get it resolved as well. But as long as you have your Merit employment updated and in good standing, this tab really doesn't matter. The next tab I'm going to show you is our Child Care Check Information tab. And right now, this was kind of a new functionality that we added. You can add your website. And then once again, kind of the grayed out information is where your licensor enters your information. If applicable, you can enter tribal information. You can enter any certifications that might be marketable to your program. So for instance, if you have a stackable certificate, or if you have a specialized Montessori certificate, or so on, you can add that there, anything that will help you market your program. You can show that you participate in the food program and also show subsidy participation. It's just kind of a marketing tool if a care provider is looking for somebody that just offers subsidy, they could look that up and it would have a checkbox under your name. And then also on this page, you can, just like the landing page, you can add the languages spoken and the languages of instruction. So I'm going to go up here and I'm going to go to our little blue ribbon tabs, and I'm going to click on our licensing tab. So this tab brings up a licensing dashboard page. And as you'll notice, this is blank. As of right now, this is just used as a placeholder for future functionality. But from this page, I'm going to go ahead and click on our green request changes button. And this brings up several different choices. One, it brings up our licensing expulsion form. So if you are in a situation where you have to expel a child, this is the electronic form that needs to be filled out and sent to your licensor. This one is fairly new and I think it's pretty incredible. And this, you can download your licensing certificate. And once you download it, you can actually print the certificate from this button. The next selection is overnight care application. And this just also notifies your licensor if you are requesting to start overnight care. And then the last one is request licensing changes button. And I'm going to go ahead and pull that up because there's a lot of different options when I pull this select button up. So as you can see, there's several selections. So I'm going to let you know, so the capacity change, the overnight care, the changing license space, the ages served, and the request to go inactive, license absence and no social security card declaration, and a special needs plan and your safety plan requests. Just send your licensor a generalized email letting them know that you are requesting changes. But there are differences between the variance and the waiver and alternative cleaning products. And also, if you are a family home, you could request a waiver for a capacity increase under this as well. It would show up as an option. But these request changes actually have an option to upload your supporting documents. So if you click on that, you fill it out, and then it sends an email to your licensor with a PDF with your request, and your supporting documents are housed in our system as an electronic file. So I'm going to go ahead and X out of this. We can move on to the other tab. So underneath this, I'm going to go ahead and click on the licensing history tab. This will bring up another set of, I like to call them little sub tabs that you can go. The first one is your complaints. So you can go ahead and you can view your complaints if you choose to, and you can also download it, and you can download it as a PDF, so it could be printed. If you're a paper fan file, you can print it for your paper files. Sorry. And same with your inspections tab. I do get a lot of questions on this. A lot of people get a little confused, and they think when they click on the inspection tab, they should be able to enter their correction dates or dispute their valid non-compliance issues, but that is not the case. This is just the inspections tab is only to view the document and print it just as the complaint was. The third tab is the licensing history tab. And that is just what it is. It's got your licensing history. And this is your variance and waiver tab. And this is not to be confused on where you apply for a waiver and variance, but this just shows that the waivers and variances that you've already submitted, and it shows the status of them. And like it shows here, if a variance is rejected, some variances are disputable. And if they are disputable, a dispute button will appear, and you can click on that, and that will notify your licensor that you want to dispute that rejected variance. And like I said, there's some with end dates. This just kind of shows you an overall status of anything you've requested. The next tab is your FSKA tab, and I currently do not have any FSKAs in my system to show. And then this is the inspection report. Now this is where we would go and we would click on our view report button here. And this brings up your inspection report. Now this is where you can enter your correction dates or make your disputes. So you can go in here and enter your correction date, or if you didn't agree with a finding, you could dispute it and write your dispute reason here. Not all compliance issues have a correction date field, and that's the reason is because they're short term or they go on first time forgiveness. And that would mean that they wouldn't show up in child care check unless you had the same violation again on another visit. And as you can see, you would go down to the bottom after you did your dispute or submitted your correction dates, and you would hit the submit button, and that will notify your licensor that you've made the following corrections or you are wanting to dispute the findings. I'm going to get out of there. And this tab is a safety plan tab. And this is, if there was a safety plan necessary, your licensor would generate a safety plan, and that's where you would find that. It would generate a safety plan for you to go ahead and complete. So from there, I'm going to go back up to our little home tab. It's going to bring me back to the landing page, and I'm going to click on our Early Achievers tab. Okay, so this provider that I am using as a demonstration is not participating in Early Achievers. And if they were and an Early Achievers needs-based grant was available, this would be where that needs-based grant would be housed. This is pretty new, and we learned so much with all these grants that went available to providers that we thought that this would be a great tool for people to keep track of their grants. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the grants information tab. And so the first thing that pops up is your grant history. That is where all your grant history would show. So if you had applied for a grant, that would show up and it would show the status. So if it was paid or in process or denied, that would all show up underneath your grant history tab. And this is where the current grants tab is. And I'm going to go ahead and click on that. And that is where the stabilization grant is currently housed. You can come in and then you would click on the wording for that, and it will bring up the grant application. And it brings it right up. And so you could complete the grant application through that current grants tab. So that is where that is. And I think I am done. So if you guys have any questions, please feel free to share them in the chat. And thank you guys for your time, by the way.
Yes, thank you. And I've been, there have been a lot of great questions and things in the chat. And I've been trying to answer them. So I don't know if you guys want me to kind of read through them and what the responses are, just so everyone can see them. If that would be helpful, let me know and I can do that. The one thing that I do want to kind of mention is that Merit and this WA Compass provider portal, they kind of function slightly differently, where Merit's more for the individual to track their employment, education for the individual, where the WA Compass provider portal is more specific to the facility itself and kind of the licensing process that surrounds that. So it's more to try and give an avenue for providers to be able to see information that previously was provided in paper format, you know, trying to make that a little bit more visible, but then also to trying to kind of close that gap to make communication and requesting certain things a little bit easier, having that extra avenue that you could do it online instead of having to fill out a paper, you know, paper request and mailing it in. And having that kind of delay or not knowing, you know, was it received, where are they at and working at it, you can kind of see some information there. Would it be helpful if I kind of go over what was asked in the chat?
Well,
or is everyone good?
Where are parents actually accessing their part of it? What website are they looking at?
So the parents,
I was just going to Google myself, but where is it at?
Yeah, so parents, and I don't know if you want to try and pull it up, Jennifer, just to show, but Child Care Check is the external website that parents or the public can go and see information about a facility. So it's information that we're required by CCDF, so the federal government, to display, as well as we've tried to build in some options for kind of some marketing there for facility. So what Jennifer has pulled up is called Child Care Check. So that's the site where parents can go on and kind of look up a provider or information and see if someone's licensed, kind of look at that license history, things like that. So not all of the information that you see in the provider portal displays on here. There's only certain information. So that Child Care Check info tab that Jennifer kind of showed is more of that information that you're going to see on Child Care Check that you can actually kind of alter and use as marketing tools. So like the logo that you can upload, you can put in a self description. So if you had some more information to try and, you know, market your business, you could put in your own website for your facility there. Your schedule goes on there as well. So things like that, and you can put down whether you're accepting subsidy. So then parents can kind of use that to kind of look for care, and then also the types of like language that you're doing instruction for. So if someone's looking for a specific, you know, a provider that deals in a specific language of instruction, they can kind of use that to find that. And then of course with COVID, we had the whole, you know, trying to have it listed who had open spots. So that was kind of a thing that came from COVID, but it's staying in there. So you can update what slots you have available, and that will display on Child Care Check to kind of help parents that might be looking for childcare. And I see that there's been a couple of new things. Plans on not sharing full names for background checks. I'm not sure on that one. I know there are certain information that we are required by the federal government to do. So I don't know on that one if it's required that we do the full names. I know right now, if you go on there, background check information is not showing. We are in discussions right now on if that truly needs to be displayed. As far as, there was also a question about if race will be a required field. Right now, there's nothing on Child Care Check that, I'm not sure if that's specific to Child Care Check, but right now there's nothing in Child Care Check to list race. And, you you know, that would be something that if that was a need, we could go back to licensing and kind of see what, you know, have those discussions with them to have that. I know that there are some areas where they're trying to look and collect data within the facility itself, and that would not necessarily be displayed on Child Care Check for the public, but there are some discussions happening there to try and find that information and make sure that, you know, no one's being disproportionately served, that kind of stuff. There's another question about Julie, I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know on Merit side if they're required to disclose race. I don't believe that's a requirement when they set up a profile. But we don't display any like race information for individuals that are employed on Child Care Check. So that's more just, you know, background check that, hey, they do have a cleared one when that information was showing that they have a cleared background check or not. Okay, and Angela said that it's protected information, so it's optional right now. It remains optional in the systems. So Walk Compass is, so we kind of have two systems that we're talking about. Walk Compass is our internal system that we use for licensing processes. And the provider portal is more of that kind of gateway link between licensors and providers to be able to kind of have that communication and see things. And we just kind of built in some things within the provider portal that you can also update to have display on Child Care Check. As far as what information displays on Child Care Check, there is licensing history. So that pretty much shows the entire licensing history. So the licenses you've held. There's complaint and inspection report information that shows, and I believe that one only shows for 3 years, which is what the minimum requirement is by the federal government to have that display. So, and as far as complaints, the only thing that shows on there for complaints is anything that was found to be valid. So if you had any complaints that, you know, they went in and kind of inspected and they were like, no, nothing, you know, that was not the case. There was no WAC violation there. Those don't display on Child Care Check. So it's strictly just the ones that have been found to be valid. Yeah, and that's a good point, Colleen. I know that there was an emergency WAC in place about requirement to report, you know, that those slots, and that was kind of specific to a response to COVID. So yeah, that's probably something that, you know, they'll remove, you know, look at kind of taking a look at that emergency WAC and seeing what updates need to be done. So Julie, I think you're probably talking about in, but correct me if I'm wrong, in the provider portal itself, not Child Care Check, where Jennifer mentioned that that professionals tab was showing people that are no longer working for the facility. So that's not seen by the public. There's nothing there. That's strictly for you to be able, as you know, like a director, program supervisor, to be able to see that. And we do have an integration issue between our two systems where we did not get, at one point, we didn't get the information that we needed to actively close down employment records in our system. So that's an area where we're trying to get cleaned up. And that's why you don't see background checks showing right now, because we know that that's not accurate, and we don't want to be, you know, displaying people that aren't employed for your facility on there, that, you know, maybe they stopped working 5 years ago and their background check isn't, you know, expired 3 years ago. So that stuff has been removed. I don't remember the exact date, but it's been a while that's not showing. So, but once we get that fixed, the information that you see in the provider portal that relates to your employees pulls directly from Merit. So you will be updating that, like that'll be updated in Merit, and then it'll just automatically update into our system and display that. Sorry, just trying to go through the questions here. And I think Emily notated that suggestion about not having staff members' full names not listed in child care check. And again, that's something that, you know, needs to have to look back on what CCDF, the federal government, requires. As far as complaints, so in our system, so our internal system, we have access to all of the licensing history. So that would be any complaints that happened for the life of the facility. But on child care check, those valid complaints only display for 3 years. So if there was something that happened prior to, that would not display on there. So, and I know someone had made a suggestion on there about splitting up kind of facility complaints compared to individuals. And that's something that we would have to go back to licensing, kind of that leadership team, and see if that's a possibility and what, you know, what kind of requirements there are from the federal government on how we can kind of do that.
Are you saying that complaints have a rolling 3 years?
In child care check, yes. They only display for 3 years.
And then that drops off. And if you don't have a complaint, you don't see it again. And then it'll pop back up again. If you do have one, it'll stay that 3 years.
Yep, correct. Yep. So if you had one 5 years ago, that's not going to show. And until you have a new one, then that'll show for the 3 years and drops off. So yeah, on child care check, it doesn't show, you know, 10 years ago complaints. The federal government, I think 3 years is the minimum. So that's what we went with for 3 years. So Walk Compass, James, the complaints in Walk Compass, those are pretty much as far as like the documents, the PDFs that you can see. Those are more recent since we kind of started a new process. So those information's probably the last, I don't know, maybe 2 years, 3 years, that those can be seen in there, those PDFs and a link. Correct me if I'm wrong, Jennifer, I don't think that stuff from, you know, like 2017 or anything shows up in there, because we've kind of morphed our processes in that time. So we didn't have these kind of inspection reports that we do now. So in Walk Compass itself, those PDFs may only show for like the last 2 years, because that's when this process kind of started with those inspection reports. I'm not sure, James, if you had, if there was a specific example in Walk Compass of something that you know was deleted, we can go and take a look at it. But generally, the stuff won't get deleted in Walk Compass. That actually comes from our internal system, from staff working cases and stuff like that, working checklists to kind of verify compliance. So once they generate that documentation, it's there. So if something was there and got removed, we could definitely take a look at it and see if we can investigate further.
When I look at my dashboard, I see that under complaints, I don't have a complaint, but it does say licensing inspection reports. Are those supposed to appear in the complaint section or just in the inspection?
So for the complaints, so you've got two separate sections. So you've got complaints, which is specific to kind of those complaints that come in about WAC violations that DCYF kind of inspects and takes a look at. And you will see inspection reports under there, because that's kind of how we put down if there was a valid, you know, if there was something, a WAC that was out of compliance. But you also have a tab called inspection reports, and that's more for your annual monitoring visits. So we kind of split them up so you can at least tell what's a complaint and what was kind of an annual visit on there. But you will see inspection reports in both of them. But they're specific to kind of that, I guess, the inspection that's being done, whether it's a complaint or it's more of an annual review.
So if it was an annual review, it should not be listed in the complaint, or it should not. So how do you get that fixed?
Well, so it should only, so the inspection, you will see a licensing inspection report listed there, but it is for a valid complaint. So you may not necessarily, I'm probably not explaining this very well, but the licensing inspection report is generated for both a complaint and an annual inspection. And you will see them, we've got the two separate tabs there to kind of signify what type of inspection it was. And if you had a valid complaint, you will see a licensing inspection report, just like Jennifer's showing, under the complaint section. But when you pull it up, it's actually for a complaint. If it's something where, you think something's showing that it shouldn't be for a complaint, you can reach out to us at the provider portal inbox, and we can take a look at it.
Okay.
And also see, work with the licensing staff to investigate and see, if it's something else, maybe they coded it wrong. And I just put the email address in the chat.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. Julie, on the license status reason that says unknown, is that in childcare check or is that in the provider portal?
Oh, that was in childcare check.
Okay. So that information, so we have gone through a couple different systems. So the Walk Compass system launched in mid 2017. So a lot of that stuff that you're going to see probably has the unknown is from when we had our prior system. And there wasn't a lot of good options to mark down what they were, why a license closed down. And we actually had to renew licenses every 3 years, which is not necessarily true because they were full non-expiring licenses, but the system that we were using required that they be renewed every 3 years. So that's might be why you see some of that, but it's a carryover from those other systems, how licensing staff put that in. On the unfounded complaints, so just to clarify, if your complaint is found not valid, it doesn't show up on childcare check. There's nothing in our system. You won't see it on your complaints tab in the provider portal, and it won't show up on childcare check. So the only things that show up there are for valid complaints. I don't know if that answers your question. Lois, I'm not sure if that answers it, but the only time that you should see anything on the complaints is if it was a valid. The not valids do not show it on childcare check or in the provider portal.
Well, that's good because we sure get a bunch of unvalid. Anybody that doesn't want to pay their bill can just call.
Yep, exactly. Yep, we hear you there. So yeah, the not valids don't show. So the only things that show are what has been DCYF has inspected and determined it to be valid, and that's after it's gone through dispute processes. So again, it won't show up if they still have it open pending a dispute. So we don't want stuff to show up there, when you still have that option to go through those dispute routes. Julie, as far as the license, that whole open, when you see a license open for 3 years and closed, that's the reason, is because that previous system that we had where you had to renew the license every 3 years in our system. So yeah, I don't know that we have a great way to fix that at this point, because that is kind of a carryover from a previous system, but something that I will take a look at and see if there's something that maybe we can find some way to make that better, but I'm not sure on that one since it came over from a different system. Julie, can you expand on the comment about fixing the open closed? Oh, okay, I just did. Okay, and Lois, it looks like considerations for the other two recommendations. And I think Emily has those down there, about some other items there that were brought up. And it looks like Emily and Jessica dropped some information in the chat about feedback loop on related to child care check and some of the requirements there. Is there any other questions? No. Let's see here. Okay, so thank you all again for your time, and we'll turn it back over to Emily and Jessica and Deanna. Thank you.
Thanks, Michelle. We have a quick question to ask all of you in Menti, just to see if you better understand like the WA compass, get where you're at and kind of gauge where you're at on that one. I know Emily asked you about merit earlier, and I know everyone voted to get out of here a little early, so we won't take time to send you off into breakouts or anything. We'll give you a few minutes back. If you can click on the link to just answer this quick question about yes or no, if you better understand WA Compass Provider Portal, that would be helpful. And then we will send you the homework out. It's just answering a couple questions about merit and WA Compass to you in our follow-up email, and get your answers and responses that way. Perfect. Thank you for voting, everybody. Does anyone have any questions before we give you all a few minutes back?
Deanna, this is Susan Brown with KidsCo. One of the things I'm wondering about from a structure moving forward, it's nice to get these presentations and get better understanding of the systems, but I wonder if there could be an opportunity for us to actually have a topic and where we literally spend time in breakout rooms going over pros and cons. I mean, I think this is where there's going to be more suggestions that might come forward for improvements versus just listening to a presentation and then, you know, sometimes not actually having the chance to think through and even bring forward concerns or issues or whatever. So I just wanted to pose that as an opportunity for more engagement, because there'll be more talking and less listening.
Right. Normally, Susan, we do the breakout rooms and ask those questions. But because we've run out of time today, we haven't had an opportunity to do that. Those are the questions I'm going to send to you all after this meeting. Emily and I will get that follow-up email out to you.
Right, but we benefit from each other when we all have the opportunity to share. And I don't mean, I'm not saying that because of this, but I mean, I think often these meetings are loaded with presentation, and there are, you know, recommendations that come forward. But I think we benefit from hearing each other's experiences with the systems that you're presenting. So to, you know, for instance, have the topic area of WA Compass, but how do you actually experience it instead of this is what it's supposed to do?
Right, right. And that's where we'd like to send you guys in breakout rooms so you all can have those conversations and talk that through, because it's really great for you all to provide that feedback to us. And I noticed in the chat too, like where the recommendations that come up. So anytime we hear recommendations, we are noting that. And then also what we plan on doing, it was in one of our emails to you, the recent one, the first meeting in June, which I believe is June 15th, we're going to be going over recommendations. So pausing what we've already learned about, and then kind of sharing with you what we have seen come out of these meetings, what the recommendations are so far that we have noted, and then having you all review it, see if we're on the right track, add to it, edit it, delete anything that doesn't sound accurate, and maybe even possibly submit early recommendations at that time, depending on how lengthy this is. So we could submit some early recommendations prior to the end of the year when the timeline is actually due. Does that help, Susan? I know that's kind of more broad and you're talking specific right now, this particular meeting.
Yeah, I think it helps, but well, I will say that I think there is, not everybody feels safe to speak up, and sometimes putting in, breaking out into smaller groups, and everybody has different levels of familiarity with certain things like Wall Compass, or, like for instance, in my case, I don't work with it because I have other people on my team, but having seen this now, it's raising a ton of questions for me that I'm not prepared to ask yet because I don't have enough familiarity with it, but it raised, some concerns as well. So that's why I would love to hear from other people, because I'm not as familiar with the system, and so I wouldn't know what to ask necessarily or to advocate for.
Right, that totally makes sense. And yes, sitting in breakout rooms without DCYF staff, so you all can have those conversations and talk through experiences and have a better understanding of what to recommend and add to those Jamboard questions that we we typically have the same Jamboard questions for every meeting because it's helpful to get those recommendations from you all. So yes, I completely understand that. And I mean, like we said earlier, you can always have someone or have a group go into a breakout at any point. We can also do at the next meeting, we could kick it off maybe with a quick, hey, let's go into breakouts and provide feedback. However, that's 2 weeks out, 3 weeks out. So you may forget some of those, some of the presentation context by then.
Yeah, I don't think we have to worry about it for this time. I'm talking about future meetings.
Right.
But thank you for your openness to the feedback.
It is noted. Thank you, Susan. Laura, did you have a question?
So I guess I am looking at my provider portal now because I hadn't. So under the complaint section, there is something listed that is not a complaint. So how do I get that off there? Because it was an unfounded thing and it doesn't even have anything listed there. It doesn't say unfounded, it doesn't say founded, it doesn't say any finding. So how do I get it off? I think the licensor made an error.
Yeah, so in that case, you can either contact the licensor directly or you can email us the provider portal inbox. I'll post the inbox again, that email address, but you can email that and we can take a look at it and work with the licensor to get that corrected.
And I think I would make a suggestion that, because just like Susan, I'm finding this information fascinating, but maybe it should come out, it should remind us annually to look at them. Excuse me, for us to look at our portals annually. Maybe that could be like a little flag.
We noted that, Angelius. Thank you for that. All right, any other questions? All right, I see people hopping off, so I will let you all go 1 minute early. All right, well, have a great night and we will send this out to you all soon. Thank you so much for joining.